What's up, everyone? Welcome to an episode of Business Relationship Sports with CA and KJ. This is the spot where you're going to learn a lot about business, relationship, sports. Hear all the latest that's happening in the world, not just the United States, but beyond. And if you ever have any questions, comments, concerns, or want to jump in the chat, you're going to have that opportunity as we go. So this is going to be primarily hosted on YouTube and that platform. If there's other places you want to see us, interact with us, make sure you hit us up in the comments and let us know. So first of all, welcome. This is our first episode.
Nice
Getting
to
it
finally
in.
make it happen.
No doubt, my
How you
man.
doing?
So, first thing we're going to jump off with is news stories in the sports world and introducing why we even started this. So, for me, I know that we started this because you and I have a lot of conversations over time. We've known each other since we were 18 years old and progressed it forward. You know, a lot of different experiences in sports, a lot of different things have happened, but there's so much momentum and so much movement in the sports world, in the business world, in the relationship world that being able to have a platform where we can talk about it, put new ideas out into the world, it'll help people, it'll entertain people, and more than anything, it'll give people, something to engage back and forth within a community to be a part of. So, how you feeling about starting this venture?
I'm pretty excited about it. Like, we've been freaking friends for a long time and been making things happen, been successful in sports, been successful off the court. And so now it's time to make that thing happen and show everybody what we do.
No doubt, no doubt. So, right now in the sports world, there's a whole lot going on, and so if we were going to talk about everything, we'd have to be here for days and days and days. So I want to hit some of the more recent stuff today, starting with the Olympics just finished up. So happening in France, a lot of different action from different sports like swimming to even the tennis side, people doing the soccer thing, and the primary sports, basketball and gymnastics and everything. So some of the bigger names coming out of there, Simone Biles coming away with more medals, just absolutely crushing it in the gymnastics world.
Dominating without question.
There's not an athlete like her. Like, when you watch her on TV, some of these different movements, and the thing that impresses me so much is she can literally step out of bounds and still get the top scores. That's how athletic it is with
and
Simone
also,
Biles.
I mean, it's like other gymnasts are trying to make it happen, but they're just not as good as her. They're just not as physical as her.
Yeah,
Nothing like it.
If you don't have that ability to emulate, I mean, people are looking for second place when they're going with Simone Biles, so that's tough. But there was a big controversy. So Jordan Childs, her teammate, ended up having the bronze and then not having the bronze, and then it went back and forth. So for those who don't know, the way the situation went down was originally her teammate Jordan Childs was competing at the Olympics, and I think she took like a fifth or a fourth or a fifth, and a young lady from another country ended up taking the bronze. But then there was a petition put in, which you can do in gymnastics if you're under the certain time limit of putting it in.
Yeah, I think it was like what?
It's like a minute.
Like a minute or 30 seconds or something like that.
And so they put that petition in and they flipped the decision. And Jordan Childs, I remember seeing it on TV at the time. Like, she's like freaking out, so stoked, gets the bronze medal for USA. But then they bring it back again. And they say, oh, the other side filed a petition and you didn't get it in on time, so now you don't have the bronze medal. So what are your thoughts on that whole thing? Like, one, being able to have a back and forth of who won the bronze medal or who won the silver or the gold, like, is that how it should be to you? Does that take away some of the excitement and the enjoyment? What's your opinion?
I don't know. I think this petition thing should last longer. Like, if you need to make a petition about a potential problem, then you should have a little bit more time than 60 seconds to put in that petition.
Yeah. If you have like referees, so we deal with this whole concept a lot in sports, right? Just how much subjectivity there is in sports and less objectivity. And if you're an athlete, you've dealt with both sides. You've dealt with things going your way with referees where you're like, hey, today's our day. And you've dealt with things where it seems like the game has to be being rigged. It's so lopsided. But I've always felt like the parity in sports is important. It's the reason why people watch. If sports get a little bit too hard and fast, every single call is accurate, every single play is accurate, it loses a little bit of the allure. It loses a little bit of the controversy. It loses a little bit of that cachet that people find. However, obviously there's a line to that where people start to become uninterested when referees or judges get too involved in a sport. So with a sport like basketball, you see so much subjectivity. It's like this one play can be a foul, and then somebody can get pushed, 5 yards away from where they are, and it's not a foul the next play. But in something like gymnastics, where they have these finite rules, these hard lines of if you're inbounds, if you're out of bounds, if you land on one leg, if you stick your landing, if you don't stick your landing. Something like a petition like that where I think it was Jordan Childs got docked points for some dance floor routine that she did, and then they found out she didn't actually do it, and it's back and forth. So if you're her in that situation, like how do you feel? What are the emotions that go through your mind?
Let's just say I'd be going crazy. But also, like, you got to factor in that, like, refs are actually paid to make mistakes.
Right.
Right? They're not paid to be perfect. They're paid to officiate the best way that they can. So I'd be pretty pissed off about it. Once again, I'd want more time to put in a petition. Like, obviously, there are some time limits that can't be stretched too much, but that petition has to be, you got to give a little bit more time, like, to put in a petition if there is an issue.
No doubt.
As far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I mean, you see the same exact situation in other sports. So moving away from gymnastics, if we look at men's basketball and women's basketball, this year both teams were able to take home the gold, but you have a different kind of controversy with Caitlin Clark not being a part of the team. So you have
that's rough.
this rookie who's the most highly touted player ever in women's basketball, and that's not saying she's the best yet. That's not saying like she's the most legendary or anything. But when I say highly touted, it's the fans are so interested in her. Like, I looked at the statistics this year and actually had the opportunity to attend a Caitlin Clark game when they played in LA.
No doubt.
And the fanship is just insane. It's like back when Magic and Bird were first changing the NBA. It's like that's what we're watching with her and Angel Reese, you know, propelling this forward. So women's basketball was already gaining steam, was already gaining momentum. And I've been a women's basketball fan for a while. I really like Diana Taurasi. I really appreciate Paige Beckers. I've been watching Juju Watkins since she was a freshman, playing at Windward before she transferred to Sierra Canyon. But now, this Caitlin Clark wave is like no joke. Since she was in college.
She's different. Like, she's completely different. And on top of that, like, she brings it in, I guess, similar, not similar, but to like a Taylor Swift type of deal where you're bringing somebody, so many fans. Like they said, they're bringing in a ton more revenue than they used to before. And then the funny part is, like, almost all the WNBA players, they hate her.
Yeah, it's like you have this situation where most other teams are bringing in somewhere between 3,000 and 6,000 fans, and their average for the Fever was like 12,000.
Yeah.
It's like 12,000 fans. It's like more than double. So if it's a very obvious situation where that's bringing revenue, that's bringing viewership, that's bringing eyes, and it's a good player, it's not just the circus, it's not just like a media show, that decision to not take her to the Olympics, I think, is tough. And so a lot of people go off the merit of, you know, she's not the best player yet. She hasn't paid her dues. She hasn't been around.
Right?
But ultimately, what other space in professional sports right now doesn't have the financial dollars and the viewership in the game plan? Like, anybody writing a business plan for the NBA, NFL, MLB,
100%.
the viewership is going to be within there. So, I mean, not taking Caitlin Clark, I think, was a big hit for USA. And although they won the gold, which was their, eighth gold in a row?
Eighth gold in a row. Like, it's not even close. Like, USA women's basketball is completely unstoppable.
Yeah.
There's nothing else.
I mean, so you have that. There's so many talented players. Aja Wilson, you have Sabrina Ionescu, you have Kelsey Plum, you have Brianna Stewart, you know,
Speaking of that, I got some Sabrinas.
Yeah?
Some shoes. They're freaking sick.
Those are fresh. Those are fresh. Now, some of the girls who I train here, they've been rocking those, and I'm like, those are sweet. So shout out to her.
I got them. So
shout out to her for making a tight shoe with Nike.
I don't get it. I'm like, if WNBA is like not quite profitable yet, and then you got somebody like Caitlin Clark who's like bringing more money, you're gonna literally be like, no, we're not gonna take you to the Olympics just because. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, so much of it you can tell is the political side of it. You mean, you see the same thing on the men's side with not taking Jaylen Brown. So you have Jaylen Brown, who was the MVP of the NBA Finals, and two of his teammates who played under him are on the team and getting minutes.
Yeah.
Right? And so Stephen A. Smith, for example, he always brings it to, Nike, you know, there was this big Nike rift, and Nike has a lot of influence with USA basketball. But when things are so blatantly obvious like that, like, Jaylen Brown is the MVP of this. He's the first or second best player on the Boston Celtics. You have two of his teammates on the team, and this is the team representing the United States, right? So you find that there's so many things that are happening on the back end from a political standpoint. And is there a way to regulate something like that becomes the question.
I also think, like, is there a fit?
Right.
Because maybe he didn't fit. Because you know how the international game is completely different than the NBA game.
Yeah.
So maybe they're saying, all right, you don't fit in this role because we have somebody else in that role, but your other teammates, maybe they fit a role player role. Maybe this guy's a little bit bigger for the situation.
Yeah.
So,
What you have is
understand
like
that.
what happens so much is like NBA specifically, people catch a rep, right? Like Kyrie Irving when COVID was around, he was catching such a bad rep.
Yeah, they
And
killed him
Mark
for
Cuban had an interview not too long ago where he was going through that question of like, why did you know that Kyrie and Luka would be a fit? And he's like, I didn't really know, but he's like, I just asked around players, and players loved him. And he was originally feeling like Kyrie's a team killer, but he went and started to ask players, and all the players loved him. So that becomes the question so much with professional sports. With youth sports, kids a lot of times don't know yet how to even judge things like that. And, oh, well, they're taking my playing time, and I like my friend more, and this and that. But at the professional level, although they're still human beings and they still have attitudes and they still have, like, emotions, more often you can just ask the players, you know, where's the chemistry? And they'll let you know. Yeah, this person fits well, this person doesn't fit well. And I'd be hard-pressed to feel like they didn't like, you know, Jaylen Brown that way. So
you never know. I mean, they might have been like, all right, we already got somebody else in that spot, and we don't think we want to put him into that spot. And I mean, even going back to the Caitlin Clark situation, like, didn't Anthony Davis go with the Olympic team when he was like a rookie or right before he got drafted?
I mean, it's not unprecedented to have a rookie be with the Olympic team in like any sport, but the Caitlin Clark situation is so hard because when things get brought to you in advance, that's when you usually know there's like, I'm not going to say foul play, but that's when you know that there's political things happening on the back end.
100%.
Like, it's different if a decision comes out and the world is shocked. Like, oh, nobody was talking about this, nobody was thinking about this, the decision comes out and you go, what? Like, whoa, can we backtrack this? No, it's too late. But people were prefacing this for months. Like, Olympics are coming up, Caitlin Clark over in France is going to be killing it, the viewership, the eyes, and this and that. And they were waiting. When the rosters came out, people were like, this is a mistake. And then it became some of the biggest news in the country.
I think it's got to be the powers that be. Like,
100%.
The NBA players, the top NBA players, I'm not NBA, but WNBA players, they're probably like, nah, we don't want this kid in here yet.
Well, you have that, but then also, it's just like any other professional sport where the people who are at the top of the food chain, they call the shots a lot. In the NBA, LeBron has a lot more control than even the coaches, and sometimes even pulling things with commissioners and not all the way to ownership. But on the women's side, like you said, if you have some of the top players who are like, look, this girl's been down with us, or this girl's been around, we want her to go. Or if there's like team meetings happening behind the scenes, or say even like the person putting the WNBA team together, if they bring in the top 4 players and say, hey, we have this dilemma right now, we're thinking about bringing player number 10 or bringing Caitlin Clark, what do you guys think? And if they go, well, you know, player number 10 has been around and she's paid her dues, so we think that if it's on the fence, you should take her. But the thing to realize, if you're the person making these decisions, it's not on the fence. Like, if you have a person who is single-handedly, like one individual, who's going to double your viewership, double your fanship, double the ability to bring in new fandom,
I mean,
it's a no-brainer. Like, ultimately, professional sports is a business. It's not, we're not doing this for play, we're not doing this for health. When you and I were playing professional sports, the first thing that always comes is the contract negotiation. Like, before you start talking about role and how many sets you're going to get and who's going to play what, the first thing is contract negotiation. So, if you're a international program looking to build your brand, like the WNBA, it's not like you're the NFL. Like, NFL set up in a way where even Tua Tagovailoa can get hurt, and the Miami Dolphins aren't going to miss a beat with fans coming to the game.
They're still going to come.
That's just the way it is. But with WNBA, it's proven. If Caitlin Clark's in the building, you will double the people who show up for you. If Caitlin Clark's not in the building, you will lose potentially half the people who would show up for you. And that's not just an in-the-moment thing. That puts a bad taste in people's mouths for the future. If they're like, look, this is our person who's going to take us to the next level, and you're not giving them the opportunity to go, that's it. Like, even Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan went with the Olympic team.
They're still in the negative. Like, that's the thing. Like, even in the revenue you look at in WNBA, it's still in the negative. So Caitlin Clark might be trying to move that up. And
well, I mean, is moving the needle. Look, this year, look at how many people, like you talked about the Sabrinas, look at how many women are getting shoe deals. Look at how many women are getting commercials. Like, look at how much the WNBA is on TV. I've watched no less than 6 WNBA games this year. And last year, I couldn't tell you if it was even on TV. Like, I'm being serious. Even before the playoffs, which are happening right now, I couldn't tell you if the WNBA was even on TV. And now this year, I've seen no less than 6 games. And, like, my business partner, Lynn, is always watching WNBA. Like every time I pop in the office, like WNBA game on, WNBA game on, all the time. So it's not 100% because of Caitlin Clark, but it would not be happening the way it is without Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
And so
even if it's not 100%, it's mostly.
For sure.
So you can say 60, 70, 80%, whatever it is, most of it is because of her.
For sure. I mean, it would be the equivalent of saying, like, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and Michael Jordan weren't responsible for, like, the increase of NBA coming from tape delay to being what it is now. Like, of course, there's other people involved. Of course, they didn't do it alone. But without those people, it doesn't happen.
Not at all.
Right. So, Olympics, I mean, you have so many teams who were from the USA and had, like, really good runs, but there was a lot of surprising stuff. So if we look at gymnastics, like we said, Simone Biles did her thing, and Team USA did their thing, but there was a little bit of controversy with the other areas. The men's team ended up taking a bronze, which they were stoked on. Like, I watched that live when it was happening, and the men's team, I don't think, has gotten bronze for, like, a lot of years. And you could see the excitement and the joy because in the men's side, I believe it's China and Japan who crush it.
Yeah.
I might be misquoting in Japan, but I know for sure China's one of them, and I believe it's Japan who crushed it, and they took the gold and the silver.
Yeah.
But the men's team to medal, like, that was a really big deal for them. But when other sports happen, there's a little bit more disappointment. So if you look at track, where Noah Lyles wanted to win everything, he did gold in, what was it, 200 meter? The 100 meter.
I think it was in the one.
The 100 meter, but then he ended up catching COVID and taking bronze in the 200 meter. So when it happened in real time, everybody was like trying to figure out what happened. He's like laying on the ground, can't stand up.
So bad,
and they come to find out he ended up having COVID. Like,
that's so rare now too, because you don't hear people having it anymore.
Totally, and not like with crazy symptoms, but I mean, it shows you it can happen at any level and can be such an effect. So it's impressive to still be able to pull off an Olympic medal, like the best people in the world at your sport.
And you're
still pull off an Olympic medal with COVID, but such bad timing for that guy. Such bad timing. And he had so much controversy going into it, with his statements about the NBA, how it's not like did you hear about that?
I heard some of it, but I didn't get the whole deal.
Yeah, basically he made this statement a while back, like, world champions of what? Like, they don't play against, like, the rest of the world type of situation. So a lot of NBA players took offense to that.
I mean, it's true. Like, technically, we don't play against the rest of the world. I mean,
it's like it's the United States Championship.
We should have more. Yeah, we should have more international competitions. I see what he means, but I'm like, you get the best international players to come and play in the league anyway, so it's all the same.
For sure.
Yeah.
And so Sha'Carri Richardson too. Like, everybody was so excited to see her finally run because she got it stripped from her last time.
Yeah.
So being in the Olympics this time and then taking silver in the 100 meter was like, I mean, just it shows you how impressive athletes are getting to this day and age, where I feel 40 years ago in the Olympics, things were so much, okay, here's the fastest person, here's their training regimen. If they don't get hurt, this is going to be the situation.
Yeah.
And now there's these people who you've never heard of who pop up all around the world who are beating, some of the biggest names. And it's happening in every sport. So basketball ended up pulling it off, getting the golds, but not without challenge. Like, Steph Curry had to show up super clutch. LeBron had to show up super clutch. Like, to be able to pull that off. On the women's side, it was a battle all the way through when they were playing France. But overall, like, the world is putting together such impressive sports at this point, which is cool. It's like, it's cool to see the build.
Play. Everybody can play now.
Exactly.
It's different.
It's cool to see the build. It's cool to see the training. It's good to see the commitment and everything. It makes it really fun. It brings in more revenue. It brings in more job opportunities. It brings in more viewership. And ultimately, it brings more community. Because what I say all the time is, like, the three things that bring community are communication, music, and sports. Those three things bring people together who, like, have no business communicating with each other, and people who originally wouldn't even like each other.
Otherwise, they wouldn't talk.
Exactly. If they can find community within a team, if they can find community within a genre of music, think of, like, when you go to a concert, if you've ever been to a concert, where, like, somebody's song comes on, they just turn to the person next to them who they don't even know, and just, like, rock out with them.
Start singing to them.
Same situation in the sports game.
No doubt.
If you and I are Cowboys fans, unfortunately, and we go to a Cowboys game and they score a touchdown, you could look left, you could look right at the strangers, and it's going to be an embrace like you guys have known each other for 20 years. So
that's the thing. I think just with even the Olympic basketball, like, we have to now fight for everything.
Yes.
Like, way back in the day, at least on the men's side, way back in the day, it used to just, you roll into getting the gold.
For sure.
Now it's like every single team is good. Almost every single top team has, like, at least 3 players that are in the NBA now.
Yeah.
And so now it's a complete battle than what it used to be.
It's crazy to see the way the NBA has progressed, but we'll get there when we get there. So NFL, what's in the season we're in right now, NFL is like, still blows my mind. In transparency, when I was growing up, I was never a really big fan of the NFL for 2 reasons. One, I felt the sport is so physical. There's so many injuries. I could never watch.
I was a big fan.
Yeah, I could never watch it. I could never watch an NFL game without going, okay, somebody else is injured. Okay, somebody else is injured.
Mm-hmm.
But like I've grown, as I've gotten older, I've learned to really respect, one, the art of it.
Yeah.
I've started to learn the nuances. I work with a lot of athletes now who are high school or college football players.
Yeah.
And they've educated me more so on basically the beauty of the game. So yes, there's challenges. Yes, there's injuries, but that really is in every sport. Football has them more frequently, but also, like we just talked about with viewership with Caitlin Clark and everything, football is like king of the hill right now in terms of viewership.
It's a physical game. Somebody told me it's like the hardest way to get rich.
Yeah.
Because physically you have to go through it from middle school all the way through to the pro game. Like I said, that I played in high school.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's nothing more physical than football, and maybe you can name, you can name hockey.
Yeah.
And rugby.
Yeah.
And rugby, they go no pads.
Right.
But it's like the most unsafe game, and to me it's just annoying. I'm like, okay, we know it's unsafe, but then they're adding in a lot of random rules that are like taking away like the football from the game.
Yeah.
So
some of those things right now that I've watched this year, and again, I'm not a football savant by any means, so you're going to do more of the education on that, but I've noticed with the kickoffs, they've adjusted it almost every other year that I'm watching. So originally it was people were kicking from like 20 or 30 yards away from the thing, kicking it. Most of the time the person's catching it and running it out, or catching it and dropping a knee. And then I noticed, and right away the people could run with the kicker, kind of with momentum. And then they moved it to where the kicker's kicking from closer, so there's more touchbouts, like kicking it out of the end zone.
They've basically taken that part of special teams completely out.
Yeah, and now it's too many hits.
Yeah, it's probably one of the most exciting plays in all of football, and they took it out because people really were getting hit, and it was super unsafe play. But I'm like, you're gonna take away the most exciting play, and the funny part is when you take away special teams, you're taking away jobs.
Right.
So there are people who like literally their job was to be special teams, like a Dante Hall back in the day, or you're talking about a Devin Hester, like some of the best returners to ever go. And now you can't even be a high quality returner anymore, and that's only in punt return.
Right.
And most of the time, cats are waving and catching the ball. That, like, as far as I'm concerned, if you're gonna do that, you might as well take special teams out completely.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Now, I mean, it's gotten to an extreme where they're closer, and I've noticed the players have to wait till the ball is caught. So, like, the kicker's kicking it, and then the players stand there, the ball's in the air, person catches it, then the players can run. And so it's really shifted into a space where they're trying to limit the, like, full speed head-on collisions, which, like you said, I can understand, but ultimately there's got to be a decision at some point. Well, there's got to be a decision at some point of, let's either take it out, like you said, and just make it, hey, if you score a touchdown or field goal, the next team gets the ball. Like when you're a kid,
start at the 20.
Yeah, when you're a kid with two-hand touch, like once somebody scores a touchdown, the other team gets the ball, or soccer, somebody scores a goal. It's not like somebody throws the ball up and everybody runs from the end line. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not sure how I feel about it, again, because I'm not originally a soccer guy or a football guy, but I do notice that there's these changes all the time. So the NFL is trying to make it safe, keep players on the field, which is a big deal. But ultimately, how
are you gonna make the most unsafe game ever created?
Yeah, it's safe. Like it's situationally safe right now. For quarterbacks, it's a little bit more safe because quarterbacks are getting more protected.
You can't touch quarterbacks.
Yeah, quarterbacks it's more safe, but yeah, we'll see. So the Chiefs, defending champions right now,
no doubt,
4-0 in the rankings, but unfortunately going through a bunch of injuries right now and have some people dropping like flies. So their running back, who's done really well for them, Isaiah Pacheco. He ended up getting hurt, and now they're having to bring down Kareem Hunt, who has been off the roster for years and years and years. And although as a rookie, I believe he won the rushing title or got the...
Kareem Hunt was actually a really good running back when he was younger.
Yeah, as a rookie, but then got caught up in some drama, and then now he's back. So they have him, but then recently they lost their number one receiver, Rice.
They lost Rice, and so they ended up moving the rookie and the young boy,
Yeah,
Worthy.
Yeah, Xavier Worthy has like just been taking the top off the defense, like
I think
so
they
fast.
said he was the fastest
Guy to ever run the
combine.
combine
Yeah,
ever.
it's crazy.
Like, if people can conceptualize that, how fast NFL players are and how fast some of the fastest are.
Yeah.
I mean, you're looking at Tyreek Hill. You're looking at some of the fastest people ever, and this dude is number one. That's like a next level vision of speed.
As a rookie.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make
But
any sense.
and ultimately, like, you look at the Chiefs, and they've got the number one quarterback right now. Travis Kelce always finds a way to show up in the clutch, and the Chiefs have been proving it. I mean, they were down in their most recent game against the Chargers, found the way to come back. But the largest issue that I foresee coming is, and just having played sports myself, it's not necessarily the injuries. Like, good teams do truly live on next man up, and like they find ways to slot things in.
They develop.
The issue is usage. Like, that's where you start to see it, in my opinion. It's if you're in week 4 and all of a sudden, hey, I was going to be a fifth of the usage as a receiver. I was going to be a fifth of the usage as a running back.
Yeah.
Now, if that translates to, okay, we're only splitting into thirds, or I have to like get that many more hits. I have to take that many more full speed runs. I have to take that many more and still have practice days, whatever the case. That's where you start to see it later in the season. So
You wear the body down.
I'm actually a person who believes in the adversity piece of it. So I won't be surprised if the Chiefs are back in the Super Bowl. We'll see, obviously. That's a long way away. And to do it without your starting running back and number one wide receiver is tough. But you still have Travis Kelce. You still have Patrick Mahomes. You still have the defense and Chris Jones and everything.
I mean, Patrick Mahomes, you already know what you're going to get from him.
I mean,
he's gonna push through.
ways.
Yeah, he's going to push through whether he's hurt or not for the most part. So I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up not being like Tom Brady, but getting close in the Super Bowl wins.
Yeah.
I think he's that guy.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting situation. I mean, and you transition to something like the Ravens. So Chiefs have already played the Ravens. They won by a toenail, literally. So at the end of the game, it's going back and forth. Lamar Jackson's making this great drive, throws the ball in the end zone to his tight end, and guy catches it, literally toenail on the white, and that was to tie it. Or, excuse me, that was to go down by 1 and potentially have a 2-point conversion.
Dunzo.
No catch, game over. But now the Ravens have kind of caught stride. So Derrick Henry, who's a new running back for them, he's been playing a lot better, and he's just an absolute
nasty
beast. Yeah.
He was he with the Titans? And he's like, I think he's probably like the biggest running back in the league. Like literally nobody wants to go up with him one-on-one.
Yeah.
And he just runs through people.
He was killing it in college. He was killing it after the fact. And so now you run into this situation where you have the Ravens are starting to catch stride a little bit, but they have an MO, right? They have an MO that they can smash everybody except for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
So if those two teams end up linking up later in the season, that's going to be an interesting deal. But you having been a football player, what are some of the things that people should pay attention to during the year that might end up affecting the playoffs?
I just think it's watching the way that the teams are going to play. Like, it's team chemistry. You also got to see how people are going to play in short spurts. Like, how are you going to do in this 3-team window? Because these teams are trying to catch runs. So if you can catch a run, you're in a good spot. And then also how well you're going to do in your division. Because that's a huge thing. Like, you can play well in your division, you're basically guaranteed a playoff spot. And you hope that your division is trash and you just kind of roll everybody in your division because you could be an okay team, like just over 500, and if you win your division, you can go to the playoffs. Like we've seen what's happened with the Giants and Eli Manning back in the day. They ended up going to Super Bowls on like a 10-6 record or something like that. So it's just watching how they're going to do in the short spurts and then how they do in the division.
All right. Okay, so our team, the Cowboys, it's really challenging for me to be a Cowboys fan.
It's always challenging for us.
I'm from Dallas-Fort Worth, and I have to stay loyal to the team. I really like the Chiefs, but I'm not going to front run like that. I just have respect for their players and the way they run the stuff. But I am a Cowboys fan. I have a Cowboys card in my wallet, and it has just been challenging. We have not sniffed the Super Bowl since 1995, which was so many years ago.
No.
And we just cannot seem to figure it out when it comes to playoff time. We'll have these great seasons.
Amazing
but
seasons.
the playoffs come and just we don't put it together. So to you, is that coaching? Is that ownership? Is that players? Is that a combination? What is that to you?
I'm just seeing a lot. I mean, I'm just thinking back to like the Tony Romo times, and when we would come out, it wasn't like it was playoffs. It was like every time we came out for playoffs, we were scared. And then all of a sudden we make mistakes. It's fumbles, it's interceptions. It was like every other team was more prepared than we were. So it could be a combination of coaches and players. But I don't know. Maybe it's ownership. You never know. Like,
it's tough.
Yeah.
Being a Cowboys fan is tough right now.
It's a rough life, and nobody likes us. Basically, basically everybody. I don't know anybody who likes a Cowboys fan. And, I mean, I think other than us and the Raiders, I can't think of any other, like, more hated teams than us.
Wow.
And I don't know why.
It's wild. I'm curious to see what's going to happen with this NFL season. Who do you think, if you had to say right now, is going to win it all?
I mean, besides the two teams that we just spoke about, like the Chiefs and the Ravens, like I don't see anybody coming out of nowhere and winning it.
Right.
Like, if the Chiefs do what they usually do, then I think they're in the best running to get it. But I'm also like my second team is the Ravens, because I've always liked them when Ray Lewis was there. So I think if Lamar Jackson is doing well and not throwing interceptions, staying healthy, because this dude is running all the time now, like I think those two are the teams.
Okay. MLB. Some crazy stuff happening right now with Shohei Ohtani. This guy, for those who don't know, Los Angeles Dodgers, he is a once-in-a-lifetime talent. I mean, he just broke a record that was never a record. 50 home runs and 50 stolen bases in the same season. So when people think of a base stealer, they're usually thinking of a skinnier, wiry guy. When they think of home runs, they think back to like Mark McGwire, Barry Bonds, Sammy
These
Sosa,
dudes are built.
thick, Aaron
Huge.
Judge, Bryce Harper, these really thick, strong guys. And Shohei Ohtani is just like, the people haven't even seen him pitch for the Dodgers. And he can also pitch. Like an absolute unicorn. The ability to hit home runs, steal bases, bat people in, pitch, and do all these things. It's super impressive. And he's not American. He's coming from a different country. So he's bringing more fanship. I've attended a Dodgers game before, and it's so interesting to see how one athlete can bring so much viewership. We were talking about Caitlin Clark, and I've been to a Caitlin Clark game, and like walking in the stands and seeing so many 22 jerseys from Iowa, from Fever, and the Fever weren't even supposed to be good. And then you look at the Dodgers paying $700 million for a person, and the average consumer goes, where do you find $700 million for a complete league, let alone one human? But people have to understand, like, when it comes to viewership and TV dollars now, the money is just increasing.
That's why the NBA contracts are getting so big. Max NBA contracts are what, 60, 70 million now for 1 year or something like that?
Yeah, Steph Curry just earned 62, I think, per year.
Yeah, and then in the NFL, it's even starting to go up. And what's funny just about the NFL real quick is that now they're starting to give like real guaranteed money, and in contracts they used to cut those contracts immediately because players get hurt.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, to Ohtani, like, he's been completely unstoppable. Like, who has a pitcher that's also hitting like a home run leaguer, like a big home run leaguer? So
you have this Ohtani situation brings more viewership to the MLB because you have people from outside of the country coming in and want to watch. You have people inside of the country want to watch. It brings the fan interest, and that's the biggest thing as we start to get into these shows and start to talk about the business side. That fans have to understand is when one sport starts to rise, it doesn't kill other sports. It lifts all boats. You know, for the situation where a lot of people feel like, oh well, MLB stealing all the shine, so that's taking stuff away from this sport or that sport or whatever the case. It's no, fans are going to be fans, and there's people who might start to watch the MLB, but they're not going to do it and lose their interest in something else they were going to do. They're going to add it, and it's going to build more revenue, it's going to build more viewership, more jobs, more opportunities, and it raises the level of everything, and it promotes health. We talk about a sport like football where it's more dangerous, there's a lot of injuries, but by and large, the biggest things you learn when you're a kid, when you're in kindergarten or whatever the case, are you need to pay attention to what you eat. They have the little health pyramid type situation, diet and exercise, how much do you hear that in life, and then focus on your education. So a lot of these sports are promoting, like college football. Do you know anybody who's making it to the NFL who doesn't have to go through college?
No.
Yeah, there's nobody who gets to walk off the street and go, hey, I'm fresh out of high school, like I'm going to go straight into the NFL. Like, it promotes, you have to go get the education first. Now, people can have a debate over what these athletes are actually doing once they get to college in those years, but you have to go to college, so the opportunity's there. Basketball has changed it where you can't just be straight out of high school. You have to go get the college experience. Yeah. So people are learning, yes, they might start to invest in their athleticism when they're young and put their money and put their time, put their effort towards being a good athlete.
Yeah.
But this conversation still has to be, you have to have the grades. You have to have the grades. You have to have the grades. Because if you flunk out or you don't ever make it to that level, then you won't reach your final pinnacle. So ultimately, sports is something that lifts the economy, and it lifts the ability for people, like we said, to have a little bit more camaraderie. And it ultimately brings things together. So that's why I like sports so much, is it has those opportunities. Now, something like the MLB, it has a lot of opportunities. For some people, it's a slow game. You know, with the pitch clock now, it's helpful because it makes the game go a little faster.
A little bit faster, but you're still sitting in for like 3 hours, something like that. I've been to a number of MLB games growing up, and because my mom's like a huge fan of the Dodgers, so it's like sometimes I go and I'm just like looking around. But the funny part is it's huge on the viewership, even if you don't see the stadiums packed.
Right.
And that's the interesting part of MLB. MLB, I think, has like 162 games or something like that, which is insane. And so sometimes you'll look at the stadiums and you'll be like, there's nobody in the stadiums. Like, how are these players getting paid so much money? And it's like the deals. It's the TV deals.
Yep.
So that's wild to me.
It's nonstop.
Yeah.
All right, so switching gears into NBA. NBA season is not here yet, but it's coming. Definitely one of my favorite seasons. I'm probably, as it pertains to watching sports, NBA is in my top 2 of sports that I enjoy watching. I like the pace of the game. I like that you get a familiarity with the players.
Yeah.
There's so many talented people in the NBA. Like, today's NBA is just like, man, every team you turn to, it's like they've got this guy, this guy, this guy, and they're all so talented. So NBA predictions, like, who do you have in the running winning a championship? If you were going to pick your top 4 teams right now, who would that be?
Well, you know I'm already choosing my Lakers. I'm a Lakers fan.
Okay.
All day. I don't know. I think maybe the Knicks might be in the running with Brunson over there. Obviously the Timberwolves because they got Anthony Edwards. Like, there's nobody like him. And then the Mavericks.
Mavs.
Yeah.
Okay. My top 4 teams, I would say Celtics, again, will be in the mix. I'm going to pick a team from the West and say the Nuggets will be back in the mix. I do think that they're going the wrong direction, in my opinion. However, I believe they could still get to a whole new level.
The Jokic.
Yeah, I would say Eastern, again, that's tough. It's tough for me to say the Sixers, but for some reason I want to say the Sixers. So even though they're new together, even though, like, the individuals on that team haven't shown the ability to really perform in the playoffs, it may be a great year for them. So, and they're popping in my head, so I'll say Sixers.
Yeah.
Over, like, a Knicks or a Pacers or somebody like that. And then Western, tough. I'm also becoming a Lakers fan in my time. I'm from Dallas, so I'm a Mavericks fan. So if I had to pick between the Mavericks, the Timberwolves, and the Lakers, which I really like all 3 of those teams, I'm going to go with the Mavericks again. I really like Anthony Edwards. He's my favorite player right now in the league. He's so explosive. I think with the acquisition of Karl Anthony Towns leaving, I think there's going to be an adjustment period there, which
100%.
that might be a positive thing for Anthony Edwards. For all you know, he might just go up to a new level to not feel like he has to delegate ever.
Yeah.
Not to say he's like the delegating personality, but there were times I watched him in the playoffs and there was a little bit too much delegation. I feel he should have really tried to take over. He should have tried to take over.
No doubt.
And you found that with Luka and Kyrie early on, where there was like in their first little season together. Oh, it's your turn. Like, there's not that feel.
Yeah.
So it takes time to develop that relationship. And obviously this last season, they did so well with that.
Well, I mean, that's like 2 of the best guards in the league. Like, you got Luka and Kyrie.
And now they got Klay Thompson. And I think Klay Thompson's going to end up having a breakout year. And not to say he's going to be dropping 30 a game or something, but I think he's going to shoot consistently.
Well, it's just going to be nice because there's not going to be any pressure on him.
Right.
Because obviously when he was with the Warriors, he was guy number 2.
Yeah.
So now he comes in, he's guy number 3, guy number 4. He just needs to sit in the corner and play his role, kind of like when Ray Allen was with the Celtics back in the day. Just sit in the corner, knock him down. You don't have to do anything else. Play a little defense, and you'll be good.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting NBA season. I mean, the Lakers, it's so challenging because it seems obvious, right? Like, anybody who's never been in a general manager's position, like, don't oversimplify it. So I'm not going to oversimplify it. It seems simple. LeBron James has historically been good when shooters are around him, so put shooters around him. But the rest of the league knows that too. So people aren't necessarily just trying to come out of pocket with their best shooters to the Lakers. And it's not like they were not trying to be active in free agency. They didn't end up getting anything in free agency. They basically got 2 draft picks in, what's the first guy's name? Dalton?
I'm forgetting the name. I know you're talking about.
They're from Tennessee.
They got a few guys, but I'm not usually huge into people who get drafted.
Yeah, they got Dalton such and such, and they got Bronny James.
They got Bronny, obviously.
But for as far as like everything else, they tried to get DeMar DeRozan, couldn't pull it off. They tried to get Klay Thompson, couldn't pull it off. And there were some other things. They tried to get the big from New Orleans, Valanciunas. They tried to get him, didn't pull it off.
He been in the league for a while.
Yeah, but ultimately,
I heard a lot of people aren't necessarily trying to play with LeBron.
Right. Well, you find the juxtaposition people end up in is, one, he's closer to being done than he is to going in. A lot of times when people are joining a team, they want to feel like, oh, we can build something for years and years here. They're not really wanting to get in on like a one and done, or like, let me just sneak in a ring.
Yeah.
Especially in today's NBA, because it's such a coin flip. It's different back when people were like, ring chasing was the word you heard like 4, 5, 6 years ago. If somebody's joining a team in their last couple of years, hey, I'm just ring chasing, I want to get on a team. But now, if somebody feels like they have gas in the tank, they're usually not wanting to team up with somebody who's 39, 40, pushing 41. But 2, like, people have learned is there's a lot of like hand maneuvering with what goes on over there.
There's the narrative. Yeah. There's the controlling. I can do whatever I want to do, and I'm like, if you get to that type of status, then why wouldn't you want to do it?
Right.
Like, and as far as I'm concerned, I think LeBron James is putting up better numbers than most players in the NBA. And he's almost 40.
And he's a leader, and he does it the right way. But like, people don't like the fact that he can get his son on the team. Like, who else could pull that off? It's one thing to be like the Ken Griffey situation where, hey, both of us got in the league, and then we're going to create a deal when my dad's a little older for us to play together.
Yeah.
This man got his son drafted onto the team he's on. Like, who could do that? Like, people have to understand the magnitude of that. This is not like some high school basketball team like LeVar Ball and the Ball Boys. This is the NBA, the most storied franchise ever, who is not winning championships right now and is like, has pressure, firing coaches. And he's like, forget all that. My son's getting on the team.
And I heard that like people were reaching out to other teams like, don't draft Bronny.
Yeah.
Like, Bronny's coming to the Lakers.
No, Rich Paul said, like,
if
if you draft him, he's going to go to, like, wherever, overseas type situation. That's wild. Like, people do not realize.
We drafted him, we're sending him to Spain.
People do not realize how wild that situation is, but it shows you, again, the influence, the power, like, the ability to be able to pull that off is
billionaire.
Wild. Yeah.
Billionaire and still playing.
Kudos to him, though. Like, he is one of the people who came out of high school back when that was a thing 20 years ago, and he's exceeded expectations. You know, you look at, there's, of course, with anybody who's a star, there's going to be lovers, there's going to be haters, always, to the end of time. But I have grown a really fond respect for LeBron James. I'm a Jordan guy. Yeah. I'm like Michael Jordan. You know, he just has the cachet, he has the attitude, he has the persona. That's so me, you know, the mentality part. But my respect level for LeBron is crazy, because to come out of high school with those expectations, to not only raise your level to those expectations, but to go through the turmoil he went through of when you lose and people beat you down, you're a loser. It's really easy to go the other direction and just be like, I'm a bust. But then to flip it around, to like literally take the wheels and turn them and go, no. I'm going to change this losing record into a positive one, and I'm going to start actually getting to the other side of these championships, and then even when I leave, I'm going to win the next place that I go. And then for him to go to the Lakers and then win again. And people say, oh, it's a bubble championship. I'm like, you're playing against NBA players. Yeah. And you won the championship.
Last
That's
time
the championship.
The championship is the championship.
That's the championship. So you have just coming up the ladder, and then to go to the Olympics, be the number one guy, play so well. Just his longevity, there's nothing like it in history. Whether you look at the Kareems, whether you look at the people like Vince Carter, the Ray Allens, these people who've played a really long time, Dirk Nowitzki, Tim Duncan. he's the picture of consistency.
But the scary part is, like, he's not like, I'm getting older and then, like, I'm falling off a cliff. It's like, I'm getting older, but I'm, like, barely dipping off from where I was. And still
in some
dunking on
ways,
people.
better. Crazy with the dunking on people. But
Still
in
dunking
some
on
ways,
people.
better. I mean, his passing is so much better. And he was always a gifted passer, but so impressive. Just the holes he finds, the timing he finds. His three-point shooting has gotten better. His free throw shooting has gotten better. Decision-making has gotten better. One thing that hasn't gotten better is the people around him. So
the funny part is, I feel like that's the LeBron effect, though. Like, where we've been trying for years to bring three-point shooters to LeBron. And for years, we actually have been bringing in a few. But for some reason, every time they go to the Lakers, they don't shoot threes anymore.
Right.
And they get wide open because we got Anthony Davis and we got Bron. And missing threes all the time. And so we end up cutting good three-point shooters, and they got to go elsewhere.
Right.
And I'm like, why would you guys be missing if you're wide open? And I think there has to be, like, either a team fit issue, team chemistry, or there has to be, like, a scheme that they just don't fit into.
Yeah, that kind of goes back to aura, right? You
Yeah.
find people underestimate the value of a coach. And I'm not saying, I don't know the Lakers coaches, so I can't say if they're good or not good or whatever, but from my personal experience, I know I, as a coach, have been so responsible for, like, the difference between a team being here and a team being here. I've watched in professional sports, the difference in a team being here, team being there. And we are in an area right now where things are so player-driven, things are so player-centric. Every single thing we've talked about today is players. But if you really look at any dynastic place, the coach follows. If you look at NBA, Phil Jackson teams with Jordan and Kobe. If you look at the NFL with Bill Belichick teams. If you look at any league, there's consistency in either ownership or coaching or both. And the one-and-done teams, they end up usually having some random Joe Schmo who did good for a year and struck lightning. And usually that team wins for 1 year, and you don't see them win again for a while. So for the Lakers to be in the mix, I think they would need three-point shooting. I think you're right about the team dynamic. There has to be this feeling of, hey, when I throw you the ball, there's not this pressure cooker of LeBron passing me the ball, I gotta make this.
Hit it. Yeah.
There's this like, hey, this is my opportunity. LeBron's giving me opportunities, which, again, I'm not in there and I don't know these people, but ultimately, I do feel like LeBron probably, of course, has an intensity, as you should if you're one of the best players in the world, but I feel the aura creates that. It's not LeBron going...
His expectations are higher than anybody else's, too, because if you think about it, like let's say like Golden State, I mean, obviously back in the day when it was Curry and Clay, but when they brought three-point shooters, everybody was hitting threes. No matter what that three-point shooter was, they'd be. And the thing is, in that aura there was like, it's open, like Splash Brothers, like we're shooting threes, so you shoot threes too, like get your shots up. And you would see random players 2 for 4, 3 for 6. I'm like, who are these three-point shooters over here with the Warriors hitting threes? And we would bring good three-point shooters to the Lakers, and it was a different deal. Like, they'd be clinking.
Yeah. And again, like, if you look at fans, like, if you go to a Golden State game, like last year I went to the Golden State opener, and you go to a Golden State game, and just the way it buzzes in there, if you could feel it. If somebody catches the ball near the perimeter, the fans like, here we go. You know, where Lakers fans, they do have I'm not going to name names. Like, the Lakers fans have the opportunity to sit back because they have 17 championships and go, hey, we'll cheer for you when you show us something. You know, where Golden State, it's optimistic. Hey, things are going to go well. Hey, Draymond passed you the ball, kicked out to the corner. It's going to go well. You see the same thing in Sacramento, but in the Sacramento games, like, there's this energy about it. Dallas games, there's this energy. Lakers fans really have developed this feeling. And again, I went to 4 Lakers games last year. Like, Lakers fans developed this aura where it's like, you show us the stuff, and then we'll be fans of you.
Expectation.
Type of situation.
It's like expectation to perform.
Yeah.
If you perform, then we'll show you love. Right. But we're not, like, buzzing before the performance.
Right. And there's pros and cons with that. I mean, that is how it was back in the day, just in life in general. You know, it's like, show me first, and then you get the reward. And now life in sports is starting to transition a little bit.
That's true. We've also never really been like the three-point shooting team. Like Lakers haven't been that. Lakers have been like Shaq coming inside dunking, Kobe coming inside dunking, now LeBron coming inside dunking. So we're more of like, you'll see Lakers get excited when it's time to dunk. Anthony Davis dunking on people, but three-point shooting, we're like, like can you hit it if it's open?
Yeah.
But like it is what it is.
Yeah. Wow. All right, so volleyball, our primary sport, for those of our viewers who don't already know that, this is the sport that has helped us become professional athletes and helped, become businesses for us. And it's a sport that's growing right now. Beach volleyball is the #1 growing sport in the NCAA. Volleyball viewership is improving as every Olympic year comes around. And right now, there's this really large push for professional volleyball in the United States. So
About time.
there's been many leagues over time who've tried to do this.
Yeah.
And there's leagues currently trying to do it. But right now, there's a unique opportunity on the women's side by a company called Love Volleyball, or Love Foundation, that is has an influx of money coming in and sponsorship and branding and venture capitalism to try to really, really, really create something that's sustainable. So you have some notable sports figures who've started to invest money in non-sports figures. So Kevin Durant is in on it, Joe Burrow's family. You have Jason Derulo. And a number of other people who are starting to put money at this. So what have you heard about it so far? What are your feelings on it? And what do you think is going to happen with the volleyball world?
I just know that there's like three different women's professional leagues coming up. One of them I'm forgetting about, but I know that there's also the AU Athletes Unlimited. And so I think it's kind of like all these leagues are going to try to grow. And then eventually, like, some are going to fall and some are going to keep rising, or they're just going to get bought out by the better league.
Exactly.
So with the Love situation, they're going in through like the club route. So they're going in and they're buying clubs, and then they're trying to churn out their teams kind of like a grassroots type of deal, similar to the way beach volleyball is going.
Yeah.
But I think it's a good idea. It's just, can you get the fans to come, and can we get arenas, and can we get, obviously, TV time? Like, TV time has been the biggest issue for volleyball to get no matter what, and I think now that's finally coming. So hopefully we get one league that ends up being superior on the women's side, and then we can see it go nationwide.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say you're 100% right on that. You have the situation where in the past people have tried to make it where they want to create a league, and so that part starts with the right reasons. They want to make a league, but then the biggest issue is they're like, well, I want people to know that I'm in charge of it, and I want people to know that it's my league and I'm funding it, and so like I'm going to approve everything. And so this whole concept of bringing somebody in from the outside who's not a volleyball player, honestly, they're just coming in, they're a business person, they're going, look, we're going to look at the way that professional sports have had success, and we're going to go create our success based on the way professional sports have had success. And then it can start to build that way. And of course, you need to have three things, in my opinion. Number one is you have to have the largest influences in the sport. So traditionally, people have tried to build their own little thing with their name as the brand or their brand as a brand, and then they'll bring in a popular person here and there and think that's going to like blow it up. Like in the past, I remember they would have NVL. Would be like, we're going to bring Phil Dahlhauser and Todd Rogers for one tournament. It's like, people are not going to stick off of one tournament with people who they don't really know. Like, people know Phil and Todd from the Olympics. That was a 2-week tournament that happens once every 4 years. Like, all the names we've talked about thus far, Patrick Mahomes, Anthony Edwards, Shohei Ohtani, these are household names. People who don't even follow sports know these names, right? So in volleyball, you have to get the majority. You have to get the majority and go, hey, all the national team players, all the best pro players, all the best college players, all the best youth players, you have to go like this. And their timing is perfect because we're in the social media era. It gives people the opportunity to click a button and figure out who these people are. Where 12 years ago, it wasn't as easy.
I don't think there is patience in trying to build a professional program, whether it's women's or men's volleyball. Like, we have to understand that this is like a 20, 30-year process. Like, how long did it take us to get MLS off the ground? Like, how long has the Galaxy Stadium been in Carson? And it took so long to get fans to really start to come into soccer. And now we have 2 soccer teams in Los Angeles. We got LAFC over there as well, the full stadium. So I think it's just understanding that we're on a long time horizon, and it's going to take time to go across the country instead of being like, we need to be big now. There needs to be patience.
You're right about that part. I mean, obviously, you and I both want to see volleyball win. It helps us in a lot of ways. It's a sport that we're passionate about. It's a sport that helped us become professional athletes. It's a sport that helps us fund our lives. But ultimately, volleyball is a thing that's exciting, you know, and in volleyball, the people who haven't seen it, there's a lot of jumping, there's a lot of moving, there's a lot of loud sound, there's a lot of like head-to-head, bang-bang,
Fast game.
and it's only going to get more so that way with people are starting to introduce more tricks, you know, more dynamicness, and that can only happen if you have the technicality. So just like in basketball, if you don't have dribble with your left, dribble with your right, you know, pull-up jumper, layups. You can't shoot step back, fade away, crossover threes. In football, if you can't run a straight L route, like straight and then go to the left and catch the ball, you're not going to be able to run these route trees and have quarterbacks getting out of the pocket and scrambling. And in volleyball, my biggest hesitation with the way the volleyball is going right now is there's a lot of promotion of people training like pros when they're 10, 11,
Super
13, 12.
young.
Yeah, train like a pro. Do what the pros do.
Yeah.
And that's going to create a really sloppy, ugly game where the prettiest volleyball you watch, if you go to a club tournament and you watch the historical Balboa Bay teams, it's ball control. It's shuffle, pass, clean route sets, really clean swings. Women's game's the same. Like when you just watch highlights of, oh, on Instagram, I saw this girl jump over another girl and like punch it back over the net. And people go, oh, it's so exciting. Millions and millions of views. I go, that's not high-level volleyball. High-level volleyball is the ability to like cleanly move, get the ball in front of you, jump straight up and down, deliver a set, and swing clean to the ground, land cleanly. Like if you could replicate that, people would not feel like this is boring. They'd be like, this is so poetry in motion.
That's fundamentals. Like, you know, nobody likes to see fundamentals.
Right.
So that ends up being the issue because I talk to players about that all the time. Like, hey, like you got to finish that pass. You got to finish the way that you're going to hit that ball. And then similar in basketball. So all these players in basketball, they want to shoot the three, but nobody wants to hold their release because everybody wants to celebrate right after the ball gets released. They're releasing, then they pull the arms down. They're already prepared to celebrate. And I'm like, no. I was like, you saw Curry do that. You saw Harden do that. But you're forgetting that they've been doing like held finishes for years. So then they know when they release the ball that it's good and they drop their hands. I was like, you're not there yet.
Right.
So it's understanding that even in volleyball, like if you stay fundamental, the game's going to be better.
Yeah.
And even like watching, we were talking about earlier, like watching Ingapeth play from France, outside hitter. Like he was just, saw him literally just make a pass, boom. He went outside and he wasn't running. He wasn't rushing the route. He was slow walking, step close, crush the ball cross court. Like just regular volleyball, but it looked good. He knew what he was doing.
Yep, I mean, you're right about that. It's the ability to be able to do things in real time that are quicker, like quicker releases, get on to your next job quicker. It comes from having the confidence of holding it. Like, I've been fortunate enough to watch a Steph Curry, like, workout in real time, and people wouldn't believe. Like, people would not believe, like, the details, the intricacies, the holds, the finishes, the strength. Because they just see the goofiness, right? They see the like, ooh, I'm gonna cross you. Oh, let me run away without the ball, and then I'm gonna pull off in the corner and like look towards the crowd. It's like, that's all for the show. That's all for the bringing the fans and the crowd. Like in his workouts, it's serious. It's no talking. It's like only swishes count. If the ball clips the rim, it doesn't even count as a make. Like that's, people can't understand. But we want to use this.
What do you think about the no double on the set?
Like, here's my opinion. Anything that they're doing right now to take refs out of the game, I think has the potential to be positive. However, anything that is going to lead to bad decision making by coaches, I think is not positive. So what I mean when I say that is less whistles is a positive thing. Allowing the game to flow. Like, who wants to watch a game where there's a rally back and forth and the crowd gets into it and then a girl doubles and the ref goes and the rally's over? It's, you go, come on, like, no, let the players end the thing. However, my opinion is people won't choose, hey, even though doubles are allowed, I'm still going to pick the most technically clean player. I'm still going to pick the player who delivers the best ball.
Clean, yeah.
People are going to naturally start to go, okay, I can bring in my 6'5" setter. I can get my 6'5" lefty going who doesn't have hand. And it's like, volleyball is going to be at its best when the players manipulating the ball have true control. Like true command of the ball, true command of the ball, true command of the ball. Like once we started to get into this space, you saw it go this way and it started to tail back the other way, where it was like, okay, everybody's got to be Russia style. 7 feet, 6'10". The women need to be 6'4". And you saw it go that way because everybody was going that way and it was a little sloppy, but like you had a couple wins. and then everything tailed back when
To
like the ball control players were like,
ball
nah,
control.
we're gonna find a way.
Yeah.
And now, okay, that they've started to allow these tips and these throwdowns and these rolls, which I think should also be outlawed. If I were the person making,
I'm not a fan of the set over for points now.
If I was the volleyball commission and I were making the decision, there'd be 3 big things that I would change. Number 1 would be I would make the net go all the way to the ground, not like have any kind of airspace so people can interact into the net. I'd make the net go all the way to the floor like it is in tennis.
Yeah.
That way people started to set the ball off the net and play the game off the net. And if
Yeah.
you jump towards the net, it's Nemo. Like you're in the net literally falling on the ground. Like
Yeah.
that would limit the injuries. That would limit the ugly tight sets where people can't really make dynamic plays and like get their elbow back. And more than anything, it helps be able to create a little bit more intrigue of the ball going back and forth over the net, like tennis, more rallies. The second thing I would change is I would make indoor rules how they are on the beach. I would make it where you're not allowed to pass the ball with your hands, or finger action.
Yeah.
You have to either close hand tomahawk, or you're passing with your platform. And that would make, again, players have to have ball control. They'd have to spend time on it. They wouldn't be able to quick fix, like you see in the men's game and the women's game.
You grab the ball.
And the last thing I would change is making it to where on offense you can't, so same as beach, you can't use finger action. So you can poke, you can use open hand, you can hit, you can slap, but you cannot use your fingers. Because my opinion is while there's more kills in the game right now, there's more dynamic things. Oh, you can throw in the center, you could let it drift to your left arm, you could play into the block, whatever. To me, it takes out the allure of the game because the people who are not artistic with it, it just creates ugliness. Like you see it when you go to little club tournaments, like people literally jumping and throwing, and the ref's like, I don't know if I should call it, not call it, and there's this, whoa, that was a throw.
And that's the rough part because I don't think that they've made it to that line of understanding like when it's a throw and when it's not a throw.
Yeah, and they're not going to. Like it's too subjective.
I think to me it's more clear, but also like I play middle, so that means I'm dealing with different kind of sets on a regular basis. So I'm like having to move balls around on a tip if I can't necessarily take a swing. And so that's what I'm trying to get across to my athletes these days, because they're like going up and they're kind of doing the throw tip, and I'm like, no, that's a throw. Like they're gonna call you for a lift, and my players are looking at me and they're like astonished. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like I made a career out of this.
Right.
Like I made a career out of not being in a good situation, knowing where to put the ball, and then putting the ball there. And so I think the issue is that like some of the refs aren't calling stuff that looks like water polo. Like it looks like your arm's going back, you took the ball back and it went forward. I'm like, if you want to tip the ball, then it has to be in front of your shoulder.
Yeah.
If it's in front of your shoulder, there's one motion down. Once it's above, you most likely are going to come back. And at that point, I think it's a lift.
Yeah. I'd like it if they took out like open hand all the way because it takes out subjectivity. Like like I said at the beginning of this, I believe parity and subjectivity helps interest in the game to a degree.
Yeah.
But anytime we're creating questions of was that legal and was that not legal, and it can't be answered with a subjective answer, it slows the game down, in my opinion. And so if people had to train in a fashion like beach, there's no question. You run into the open hand situation once every 6 months.
It's rare.
On beach. Like, wait, was that?
Because it's got to be simultaneous.
Yeah, people know. People know, like, yo, I cannot do this. But indoor, it's gotten too subjective. And honestly, if I'm being honest, it's not artistic to me. I don't like it. There are people out there who enjoy the like, ooh, tip and roll and open up the can. I'm like, no, manipulate the ball with your palm and show me like how much control you can have with your palm. Can you hit a driven ball off speed, play into the block, chip it off the block, go inside the block, over the block, like all with palm manipulation? That's how I'd like to see it. But we'll see how the game develops.
I like it. I think it should still be there. But that's because we're playing a 6-on-6 game and not a 2-on-2 game.
Right.
There should be no open hand action in a 2-on-2 game. There's too much sand.
Yeah.
There's one person blocking. There's one person covering the entire court. But you got potentially 4 to 5 other people to cover the court. I think you can do some open hand stuff. It just has to be clear that it's in front and not like over your head throwing stuff. So I would definitely be like, hey, if it's not in front, like call lift immediately.
Right.
But that's my opinion.
All right, so we're going to close with KJ's playlist. So we want to hear the top 2 things, the top 2 pieces of music you've been listening to I'm gonna have to start bringing my headphones so I can listen to them, so we don't get these YouTube copyrights.
Yeah, I don't want any problems with that.
Yeah, tell us what songs you've been listening to, so our viewers can check them out. Hopefully, all ages of viewers can check them out. But what are the songs you've been listening to?
You guys might definitely want to take that explicit off. But I've been listening to Lil Tecca.
Okay.
And he just dropped an album. I believe it's called Plan A.
Okay.
And I like almost the entire album.
Okay, so who's Lil Tecca? Where's he from? He's a rapper?
He's a rapper. I actually don't know too much about him. Like I'm still pretty new to him. Like I only found out about him about a few months ago.
Okay.
And he just dropped this album, and he's like, the funny part is he's like this very like regular looking guy, like glasses on. Like if you pull up a picture of him and look at him, like you'd be like, there's no way that you're like an artist. He's kind of like, he just doesn't look like that kind of person.
Oh, he's the guy who sings Ransom?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you look at him, he doesn't look like that guy that's like that you would think would be that guy. But he's actually a really good rapper, like really good singer. Like he knows what he's talking about. And then also I've been listening to this older song by Gunna called Big Shot.
Big Shot.
Yeah, so that one's been pretty interesting too. But that one's a little bit older. I think that's like a few albums ago.
Okay.
But
okay.
It's,
so
it's
we got
definitely
Lil
one of my
Tecca,
favorites.
whole album, Plan A. And then Gunna, Big Shot. Okay, we'll check those out. Audience, you make sure when you get off today and after you subscribe, you check those out. Whether you have Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, right here on this platform, whatever the case, check it out. All right, so where you can find this right now on YouTube, you can go to Setter Hitter Libero College, but we're going to be opening this up on Business Relationship Sports with CA and KJ. Find it on YouTube. Click the subscribe. If you like it, please hit the like button. That helps people like yourself find it. And then making sure always you're getting in the comments. So what you can look forward to is this starting to be something that gets streamed live, and you'll be able to jump in the chat with us in real time, be able to communicate with us, say whatever it is you want to say in there, so that we can build this community. So
No doubt.
until next time, appreciate you, my man.
Good to see you as
No
usual.
doubt, no doubt. All right, we're signing off for this time. See you next time.
Have a good one.